Hey friends, my name is Cody Archer and I want to welcome you to this week's Revive Live. We're so glad that you're joining us. Now something that's interesting that's been happening especially the last 5 years, we've had guests that come from around the world that come here to visit us here in Yad HaShmona in our ministry center at Revive Israel, and God has placed it in their hearts to go back to their country to help be like an ambassador of this ministry and also ambassador for the believers here in Israel. And so the last number of years, we've sent people back to Hong Kong, to Korea. It's just happening right now in Japan. And we obviously have had many years in America. But just recently, in this last year, we have two very close friends of ours that came from France with this passion that God has put inside their hearts to go back to France and to be like representatives of Revive Israel, but so much more. And so today I want you to get to know two close friends of Revive Israel, and they're the leaders of Revive France. And I have today with me Audrey May and
Hi.
Peter May. Guys, great to have you with me. Thank you for being with
here.
me.
It's a pleasure.
And we're going to have a great conversation today. But before we jump in, I just want to remind our friends around the world that as we have many things coming out of YouTube and on Facebook, lots of short clips. If you have a desire, if maybe you're like me, you like to drive in the car and listen to podcasts and listen to more audio messages, longer, more in-depth teachings, we have two different places that you can get full, long, in-depth teachings on various subjects. One of them is on SoundCloud. If you look up Revive Israel in SoundCloud, we have a whole host of teachings there. And also we have podcasts. If you go to iTunes and look up Revive Israel, you'll also find a whole host of audio teachings that you can listen to while you're in the gym, driving in your car, walking the dog, whatever you're doing. This is a great resource to really be building you up as you're going through life and also connecting more deeply with what God's doing here. So guys, it's great having you again. Audrey, I want to start with you. I want our friends around the world really to begin to get to know you guys, what's on your heart, what's happening in France, because there's a new thing, there's like a new wind of the Spirit that's been blowing across France. So, but start with you, Audrey. Tell us a little bit more who you are, where you're from, those kind of things.
Sure. So I'm French. I was born in France. I grew up in France, so I was born in a Christian family, believers, and so how I always just received a burden on my heart for just seeing my generation and my nation just on fire for God. And so at the age of 12, I had some very powerful encounter with the Holy Spirit. And
wow.
Yeah.
Was this like a separate thing, you alone, or some other youth in your youth group?
Exactly. So we were with like summer camps or during the holidays, and it was just a bunch of 8 to 18 years old and very active in the presence of the Holy Spirit. So that was cool. I received speaking in tongues and all those things. But that was when I really had the encounter with Jesus, with Yeshua, and I knew it wasn't just through the faith of my mom or my parents. It was really it's real. Mm-hmm. And then at the age of 14, I really received a promise from the Lord that I would see my country, so France, the revival just hit the country and be part of it if I wanted to. Mm-hmm. So, and at the same time, just the Lord always had this on my heart to really be in connection with Israel, and I knew I would be a bridge one day with friends and Israel. So it was all those things where you're a teenager, you're like, well, what am I going to do with that? And so to be here today and just with my husband and a small team we have in France, just to be expecting for the same thing and envisioning together and believing for those promises to happen.
Yeah,
it's
that's
super
good.
exciting.
Now, I know also you're a very stylish woman. And you're very good with graphics and colors. How did also some of those things come into your life? Because I know you're still doing some of those things today.
Yeah. So today, I'm a mom. I'm a spouse. I'm also an entrepreneur. So it's something that I always loved, and I always work in the communication and graphic world. So today, I also have my own small business. And I love to actually, especially I believe that creativity is so part of the heart of God, and so I work a lot with logos and identity, graphic identity of companies or organization, and that's a lot of fun.
Yeah, that's good, and you're really good at it too. You have a great
Thank
eye,
you.
and a gifting from the Lord. That's
Thank
awesome.
you.
Now,
Enjoy
Peter, let's
it.
hear from you also. You're from the States. Tell us a little bit more of your story.
Okay, well, I'm from Texas, and when I was 8 years old, my father just told me about Jesus, Yeshua, and I received him into my heart. And I still remember that memory quite clearly. I just felt that peace just come over me. I started crying, and it was just after that point, I just always had this heart to chase after God. And as I grew up in church, just kept digging into the Word, and he was my closest friend. I couldn't call it anything else. And then in about 2005, I got connected with a ministry called Gateways, and that's how I started into missions life.
The Gateways in Cyprus, is that the one?
Correct. Gateways in
Yes.
Cyprus. So yeah.
And what did you do there?
Well, I was a part of the discipleship school, and so to backtrack a little bit, at some point, I'd always gone to church, always helped out and everything. I just felt the Lord give me this desire for something deeper, I was just desperate for something more. I'd always been a good Christian guy, but I was hungry for something more, even more with God. And so I looked around for a discipleship school, and my church always had a heart for Israel and for the Jewish people. And so I found this one in Cyprus. I was like, it's a beautiful little island in the Mediterranean. Why wouldn't you want to do a discipleship school?
Go suffer for Jesus there.
Exactly. And so I went to this discipleship school that was by a wonderful family called the Rudolphs. And it was incredible, the worship, the teaching. And that's where I met Asher and Yuval in my first encounter with Revive. And so
Tell us also, you told me this before, but
Okay.
your first experience with Asher and Trader.
Okay, I didn't know we were going to talk about that.
Yeah.
But the first time I met Asher, and when he teaches, he's just really intense, and he's very prophetic, and he squints when he starts like really intensely speaking. And I was terrified of him. I was like, this prophet is going to read my soul. And so it was, but as I've gotten to know him, he's super kind.
And also we've seen him
Yeah.
just continue to grow as a father and soften more and be so much more approachable. And,
Yes.
yeah.
But he told us his teaching style back then was he would fast for like 10 days. While he was jogging as well, he would get on the floor and pray in tongues for hours before he would teach. Wow. And so I was like, this man is very intense.
Yeah. That's an understatement. But now how did you guys end up meeting each other and the love story begin to develop?
Well, again, it was with Gateways, but I was at Gateways from 2005 to 2008. And then I went back to Texas to get my degree from college. After I was done with my degree, I just felt again that I was supposed to reconnect with Gateways. And they asked me to go to the Geneva base. And so we were in Geneva, Switzerland with Gateways, and I met this beautiful woman. And I was only there for 1 month the first time, but I came back to help with the school in 2016. At that point, 2015. At that point, I fell completely in love with her. And was like, after the school was over, because it's an intense environment, so I didn't want to bring up my budding love right then. So after the school was over, I told her how I felt. And did you want to add anything?
Yeah, wow, yes.
And
You were in agreement?
I was in agreement.
Yeah, okay.
Yes.
Well, actually, after I told her my feelings, I had to go to Israel because my visa in Europe was up. And I had agreed to be Yuval and Valerie's nanny for 3 months. I wanted to. And so Audrey told me, she's like, well, I'll think about it and I'll give you an answer in 20 days. And so I had to wait 20 days to find out if she liked me or not.
Torture.
It was horrible.
I needed some time
Yeah.
to. No, it was just the season that we're in, and I felt like it would be it's great when you had an intense season to also take time to really have more peaceful way of entering into relationships. So, and I'm not as good as communication with text messages, and so Peter would be like waiting on me for 2 days, and so anyway. But it was just, yeah, it was so amazing how the Lord lead us to that place of beginning our relationship, and even beginning here in Israel, which both of us, we didn't know we would be together at this time, but I had my tickets for Israel way before he had his own tickets. So it just happened that we were here in this community, surrounded by very dear friends, and an environment of security and peace and faith. So it was such a blessing to begin together this way. And
that's awesome.
yeah.
Now, Peter, you mentioned that your first connection to Revive Israel was with Asher, speaking in your school. What about for you, Audrey? What was your initial connection to Revive Israel?
Yeah, so my initial connection was was with Valerie. Valerie, she's Yuval's wife, and Yuval is the director of
Revive Israel.
And so when I was 12, Valerie would come in my church in France, and she had a friend her age. So I was like a little sister, and I really just enjoyed just being with her. And so throughout the year, she really invested. Is that what you say?
Yeah.
She really invested who she was and in me, and prayer-wise, it's just so that's the journey that we had together as I would say sisterhood, in that sense of a spiritual sister. And never thinking that it would happen. We would be walking in a journey of mission and ministry together. But then it was interesting actually, because in Cyprus I also met Asher, and Asher right before leaving just were just talking, just look at me and say, one day we'll be working together. One day we'll, and so it always like something was marked in my heart, and I was like, how is it going to happen? It's Israel, I live in France. And anyway, I love how the Lord leads like every steps with just the wisdom and but the heart-to-heart connection. That's what that's how it all began. And so today, she's still a real sister for me, and a great inspiration. So I'm very thankful for committed relationships.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I love that's really a heartbeat that I feel from you guys. You're super relational, you're really easy to get along with and work with. And I know that many other people feel that way too. But now, because it's so important that our friends around the world learn more what you guys are doing in France, tell us, this is something brand new. You guys are pioneering new things there in the last year. Share more what's happening in France, where you're based.
Okay.
Sure.
Who wants to take it?
So we're a young family also. So we're based in France, in Lyon. Lyon has a great history regarding faith, and the first. So the spread of the church also went through Lyon in the 170. So there's a great history about faith, and so we were in that city now for 2 years, and we've been walking with with Revive since January this year. So everything is very new, and what we have received, and also separately and as together, it's really to be a bridge between within the church in France and the believers in France and the believers here in the land in Israel, to really prepare for the return of Jesus, of Yeshua, in a way that there's an understanding of why Israel is still relevant, why the Jewish people are still on the heart of God. And so what we've done so far is just, again, relationally, getting to know the pastors, the leaders in Lyon and around the region. And so it's, we're at the same time have a new baby with the business going. It's just,
Yeah. Well, and now for Peter, you coming from the U.S., now living in France, you've been working on learning French,
also,
which is a huge hurdle. I've gone through that here in Israel, learning Hebrew. But I want to hear from you for a second. As an American now living in France, doing this Israel connection thing, and really have a heart for France, what is your heart for the French-speaking world?
My my heart for the French-speaking world is they just have such a passion. There's a passion there, I really feel like, that's been lost. They have a Latin roots and style of language, but since about the 1900s, it's really been killed by really the spirit of humanism. And so really just to see the church reawakened, to see it come alive with that creativity, my wife is a perfect example, to see the creativity, the passion in worship, and just that fire come out again. Because really, when we decided to move to France, it was right after the terrorist attacks in Belgium and in Paris. And we felt like the Lord say, now is the time for France. But one of the things that struck me is one of the terrorists actually said, we attacked France because it carries the banner of the cross for Europe.
Wow.
And it was such a strong testimony.
Gives me goosebumps.
Yeah, me too. And so I was like, France has such a history of carrying the gospel for Europe. And so just to really see that come alive, to really see that breathed upon again, and just to see France come back into that place.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's powerful. Now, as you guys are still getting established, I know you've put up a website. If people want to get in touch with you, how could they do that?
Yeah.
We have ravivefrance.org. It's the same definition as the English name, Revive.
Revive France.
But it's spelled in the French and it sounds French.
So spell it for us.
So it's with the English pronunciation, it's RAVIV, France.org. So
Okay.
France is FRANCE.
Okay.
So.
And we'll put that in the comments
Okay.
below
Okay,
as
great.
well, so people can find your website. And then if
Yeah.
they wanted to contact you personally and visit,
Yeah.
whatever, they can do that through the website?
They
Or
can, it would be better to use my email, which
Okay.
is peter@reviveisrael.org.
Okay,
So.
super. So we'll put that there in the comments as well. Awesome.
Yeah, that's part of our heart. It's to really, we see just so amazing teachings that are here through Revive and Sisters Ministry. Just you have a lot of riches through those teachings. So it's how to also build a tool for the believers in France to be able to access it in French. So
Amen. That's awesome. Well, thank you guys for all the amazing hard work that you've been putting in. We know that it's not easy being pioneers and starting new things and a new city and connections and all. It's a lot, but we know the Lord is with you. I just want to hear before we close, is there anything else that's just kind of stirring in your hearts that you'd love to share with our friends around the world about the French-speaking worlds or this connection between believers in France and Israel, those kinds of things?
sure.
Okay. Our heart really is to see community develop. And so one of the things, if you could be praying for us, is that we want to see more couples and more people come to the team. Our heart is not to do it alone. And one of the things we love about Revive Israel, and something we want to carry as well, is that whole team mentality. Not team community mentality, the community that prays for each other, that supports each other, encourages each other. And so that's something we want to see growing, and it's been one of the hardest aspects for us. We're starting to see little bits of it here and there, but we really could see a breakthrough in that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Amen. You want to add anything?
So if anyone has friends on their hearts and
Yeah.
it's, it's like a burden, no, but seriously,
Yeah.
we believe some people connect out of some burdens that they carry, that they just, they're just welcome to connect with us, to write us, and we believe that, the nations are just so involved with the destinies of a nation to really help to fulfill their calling. So,
Amen.
we welcome you guys.
That's good. Well, Audrey and Peter, thank you so
Thank
much
you
for
so much,
joining me
Cody.
today.
That's
Peter,
awesome.
thank you. We also had an annoying fly buzzing
I
around
know.
us.
I was like trying not to.
But we just want to thank you guys also. Thanks for joining us this week. And I just want to affirm that this couple, they are solid people. And we want to invite you and ask you to be praying for them, even if you have it on your heart, to sow into their work as they're pioneering new things in France. Would you also consider sowing financially into what they're doing and getting things off the ground and building this bridge in between France and Israel, and especially the believers in these nations? And so we just thank you again for joining us, and we look forward to seeing you next week on Revive Live. See you soon.